Here we are in Asheville on a rainy Saturday, and I've broken out some chess sets to show you the sort of chess pieces that would have been known about and played with in the 19th century in England. Now, 1830, 1831, these figures were discovered on the Isle of Lewis, and I'm sure everyone has seen these. They're much copied. These are actually retailed by the British Museum. It says BM on each piece. And there were 78 pieces found reportedly in a little fisherman's hut on the Isle of Lewis. Unfortunately, they went into the hands of an Edinburgh antiques dealer, and he restained half of them and tried to make them look like chess pieces. I'm going to pass over whether or not they're chess pieces. The current thinking is that they're from Trondheim in Norway. There was only a handful of pawns found with all these figures. They may well be for a game called Hentafel, but they're mocked up as chess sets, and certainly people in Victorian times would have been aware of these in the British Museum. There was some controversy over whether they belonged to Scotland or England, a bit like the Elgin marbles, which I'll come to later. Now, we all know that chess pieces look like this. Chess players sit for hours studying them, and this is the standard chess set, which was introduced in 1849 by Jaques of London, and I'm going to talk about where the symbols for the chess icons come from in a minute. But this is what was available for use in chess playing chess clubs all over England and over the world, really. So these are the
on the board, if you will, because it's hard to see.
These are the St George chess pieces, which were reputedly used in the St George Chess Club, which was started up by Jaques Staunton, who was a very keen London chess player, and he started a few clubs actually over time. But this is one of the more standard designs, and you see a lot of variations on this. Here, for example, put these back down a moment. Here, for example, is a set actually made from a nut, which is a palm nut, and it's called vegetable ivory. This. Now these pieces are damaged; they're awaiting repair. And these pieces were made from this little nut, and they're made in sections because the nuts aren't very big, so they all screw together. It's quite a task to make these figures. It really is. You can sometimes see there's a hollow in the middle of each nut, which makes them very, very difficult to. So there must have been a lot of work involved, but clearly in the St George style, in a similar sort of style to that one there. And in some of the better clubs, you would even see these bone pieces in this barleycorn manner. This barleycorn set was also made by Jaques of London. We've identified it from the pages of the pattern book. Very imposing, somewhat unstable. It wouldn't take a lot of rough and tumble. The bone was brittle. These flags come out for. Normally they come out. That one doesn't want to. The flags come out for play, but still makes it. It's still not entirely stable on its base. For club play, certainly couldn't play speed chess with it. The pieces would be all over the place.
Did you tell them those are bone?
And these are bone, yes. Yeah.
Cattle bone, not whale bone.
No, yeah, these are cattle bone, which is easy to prove because they come undone in various sections, and you can look inside and see. Sometimes you can see the Alversian canals and the material of the bone. So it's certainly not. It's cattle bone of some sort.
Or horse, or both.
Or both, yeah. The French in the Regence Club in Paris and all over Europe were using this pattern, which Jaques Staunton railed against in his chess column in the London Evening Illustrated London News weekly chess column, and the problem he had was that the queen and the bishop and the pawn looked far too similar.
It's not a bishop.
No, it's a fool.
Right, le fou.
Le fou. The French wouldn't have a bishop in their chess sets, they wanted a fou, so that's a fou.
Rejected religion.
They rejected religion completely, yes. And interestingly enough, the knights, very well carved knights with glass eyes, quite a lot of work being spent on that. So wherever they were sourcing these from, there's a lot more work than making other pieces. But you can understand what Jaques Staunton was saying about these pieces looking similar. You could probably mistake in the heat of the moment the Queen and the Bishop, for example. Now, I have here a reproduction set because I can't get... These are reproduction pieces which were also designed by John Jaques in about 1828. 1828 for the Simpsons in the Strand Chess Club.
If you'll move your hands, I can get pictures
Okay,
of
there we are.
You're in the way.
And we see here almost a coronet for the Queen, which the Queen typically had been a ball on these earlier sets. There and there, for example, that's the Queen symbol, just a ball, basically because the Queen was just a promoted pawn, just a big pawn, really. And so there we start seeing a more modern symbolism coming in. And we showed in this article...
You have 2 more sets to
Okay.
Don't cut to the chase.
And here's a so-called Vienna coffee house set, very much in use on the continent. Quite small. It's got the cups like a Solenis set, which was
Galleries.
the galleries like the Solenis set, yes. And it's got this type of contrasting finial on the bishop and rook. And these were very, very common on the continent, played with up until relatively recently, until certainly 1940 anyway, and occasionally beyond then. And of course, at least we didn't have to put up with these so-called muslin pieces, which nobody knows what's what at all, except that that's a pawn. And these are rooks, but they're very difficult to
Viziers.
make
probably,
out. Yeah, so
advisors.
who knows? Probably from a much earlier time that this was this kind of symbolism. They say that the chess players weren't allowed to use the Muslim chess players weren't allowed to use representations of real things. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because Alfonso the Wise has a picture of a chess set maker making a chess set, and it's obviously got a horse in the picture, so that can't be correct in all cases. So we're going back to the Jaques set. Now this didn't suddenly spring onto the scene and become used by everybody. It was many years that they were making these sets before they became very popular. In fact, it was 1942 or 1943 before they were accepted as standard. A century by FIDE, the International Chess Federation, said that all chess sets used in clubs, in congresses, should be of this style. And we showed here, there's some controversy over where the symbols came from, but we showed with our research that these symbols, the king as a crown, the queen as a coronet, the rook as a castle, the bishop as a mitre, the knight as a horse, and this pawn's an earlier designed pawn, but we showed, and they've got a ball on the top, we showed that these symbols were standard in chess books of the period from about 1818 onwards. And certainly Nathaniel Cook, whose name appears on the registration document, on the 1849 registration document, he was a printer and he would know all about the printed icons. So whether or not Howard Staunton had anything to do with the design and or John Jaques, no one knows, but certainly these pieces were produced initially by Jaques of London and still are now. And these early sets are very collectible, really quite valuable, and heavily weighted, very good for chess play. They do get damaged, and of course I restore them.
Tell them stuff's going to be on the website.
Yeah, and all this information will be on our website for anyone who wants to look it up. Thank you.